it's Lizzie. I am so sorry for the delay. I'm at my best friend's house and I couldn't find my tripod. So that's what the issue was. I was also making food because what is a live stream if it's not a mukbang as well? So I had a pretty intense day. I finished editing as well. Oh my gosh. I have my phone plugged into my computer. I had a really intense day. I finished editing a video that is a response to a Father Mike Schmidt's video, kind of disagreeing with the way he did the video. So I'm kind of nervous about how that's gonna come across, but I had 5 caveats in the video and I'm really proud of it. I've been wanting to make this video for so long and I know it's gonna cause a lot of controversy, but I decided recently that I'm gonna start talking about abortion and gay marriage and all these things that I will get attacked for talking about just because I'm kind of, I don't know. I think that I kind of reached a point a few months ago. I made a video talking about Pope Francis and I got so much hate and I realized, why am I not talking about issues? Because I'm scared of getting hated. And I actually did a confession where I was talking about some of the things that I don't talk about because I'm scared of the way people will react. And the priest basically was like, Jesus was hated. He was hated for things that he said, and why do you expect as a Christian for everyone to agree with you? So yeah, I'm sorry to talk about controversial things on my channel. Also, I ran into some Mormon missionaries at the park today and I was like, do you want to be in my video? So I gave them my number and we might film something. We might film something tomorrow. So go on my Twitter and Facebook to ask questions if you want to. So okay, it started. Hopefully it won't cut out because that's what has been happening to a lot of people who live stream. So I'm staying at my best friend's place right now and all my friends have different internet, so I'm not at all sure how this will go. But I want to talk to you guys about the phenomena of cafeteria Catholics and disagreeing with theology. Just because I've been thinking about this so much lately because I had something happen on Twitter. It was my last 2 videos ago. It was responding to the Twitter controversy. I said something that made a lot of people think I was a heretic. And it made me think that there are some things that, not that I believe, but I have intuitions towards heretical beliefs. Not on that issue, but just on different things. And I think that every single person is struggling theologically, maybe not constantly, but I think definitely all Catholics, probably even Catholic priests and bishops, have struggled with theology at one point. And I think it's important to be self-aware of when you're starting to doubt the church's teaching and to figure it out and to pray about it, go to confession about it, and deal with it. And I actually have that happening a lot lately with different things. I don't know if I'm going to go in depth into all of them, should I? But I kind of have it down for what to do when that happens because I feel myself falling into heresy, but I don't want you guys to get the wrong idea because I'm very black and white in logic about why I became Catholic. I want real presence. The Catholic Church has real presence. If I go become Episcopal or something, they're not going to have real presence, and I'm super sure about apostolic succession and everything. And so 100%, like, intellectually, I'm not going to leave the church. I'm not going to cave on anything. If I cave on anything, I'll just stop being Catholic. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be cafeteria Catholic. But yeah, within the past few months, there are definitely times where I'm really, really emotionally struggling and I don't like a theology and I wish it was different. And I think that everyone has this problem and I wish that more people would talk about it and admit it because I think it's something that we all struggle with. I'm gonna try to fix the light. Let me see if does that, I'm gonna try to put the light here to see if it works better, but I really want to hear what your guys' thoughts are as well. Just, ooh. Oh my gosh, let's see if this could be the best lighting in the world if this works. I have a light balanced on my phone right now. I don't know if this is gonna work. Let's see. Oh my gosh, it works. Yay. Okay, this is perfect lighting. Never feel like you're never allowed to doubt and question. Yeah, so in Protestant churches, a lot of people felt like they weren't allowed to doubt God's existence and stuff. I'll respond to the super chat really soon. So in Protestant church, a lot of people felt like they weren't allowed to doubt the existence of God. Yes, the lighting is good, I know. And I remember in high school, like talking to people and being like, it's okay to wonder if God exists or doesn't exist. And I think that especially when I got to college, they really emphasized that as a Christian, you need to intellectually struggle with the existence of God. But in Catholicism, it's a whole other thing where it's not just struggling with the existence of God, but because we have black and white dogma we have to accept and believe in, we also struggle with that. As a Protestant, if I disagreed with something that my church believed or that my teacher believed, it was fine. I didn't have to struggle with it. I could just change my belief. But as Catholics, we not only struggle with the existence of God, with understanding that Jesus is fully God, with accepting the resurrection, we also can struggle with this list of theology. And so I think that it's a whole other level of doubting, and it's very encompassing sometimes. So I'm gonna read all your comments and a question. I'm so tired. I'm gonna read all your comments in a minute. I want to show you guys what I'm eating today. So I've really changed up my diet and simplified it so much. So I've been traveling the past few weeks, so I had to figure it out. So I'm having bread right now. I get bread or bagels that have at least 3 grams of fiber or more. Having high fiber and carbs is the way to go. And so I toasted some bagels. And then the rest of this is leftovers from yesterday. I don't know if you can see it. It is rice, kale, tomatoes sauteed together. So I got a ton of garlic and I cut it out. And then I put in kale for like 5 or 10 minutes with some oil. And then I cut up tomatoes and avocados. And oh man, I'm starving. Yeah, I wish we could do like a vegan potluck with everyone. Like if we all went to church together and they did a vegan potluck, that'd be so cool. Or I could just cook food for you guys. Anyways, so yeah, I cook the kale, rice in a rice cooker, and I always cook a ton of rice so that I have rice for like 3 different meals, and then each meal I cook double, so I have dinner and then a meal the next day. So that's how to save money cooking. Not money, time. Gosh, I'm so tired. And then also for breakfast and snacks, what I've been eating is bread or bagels, 100% whole wheat, high fiber, and then peanut butter and almond butter. This is almond butter, but I've really gotten into peanut butter lately, and it's crazy because my entire life I hated peanut butter. I never tasted a peanut butter sandwich until I was 11. I just refused, and I've never liked it. But recently I was researching vegan protein with one of my best friends, and peanuts are the healthiest, they have the most protein and healthy fats of any nut, so that kind of motivated me. So now I've been eating peanut butter, like a ton of peanut butter on a slice of bread for breakfast, and then I'm like good on protein, and then I can just eat carbs for dinner, right? And there is protein in rice and vegetables, but also okay, let's go and read everything. Sorry, I've been talking so much. Today, oh my gosh, sorry guys. I wish I would say first, sorry guys. Okay. I'm gonna read every single comment. I would say first, but actually God is before all things. I agree. I haven't been here in a while. Welcome back, Michael. I've been really good. I've been traveling a lot. I don't really have a home, and I might make a whole video about what I'm doing, but I literally don't have anywhere I'm living right now. I'm just traveling every 3 to 4 weeks and staying with different friends just because I don't have a stable home. Like I don't have an apartment, I don't have a lease anymore in California. So I'm just staying with different friends, and it actually worked out really well because I can live wherever I want with my YouTube. So I just made a schedule to stay with so many different friends, and I was home for a week and a half, and I'm going to be staying with my boyfriend's family for a while, and then a lot of my best friends from college. So it's going to be really, really good, and I don't know where I'm going to end up. Everyone's like, move to the East Coast, but I have my parish in California, and I don't want to leave them. Like, I love them, so I need to stay in California longer. But in a year, 2 of my friends are going to move to the East Coast as well, like next year. My last 2 like best friends in California, you know. But I have another guy best friend in California too. So yeah, one of my roommates. Okay. Hi Lizzie. Hi Fatima. Hey Lizzie, it's guys. Oh my gosh, I love that. Hey guys, it's Lizzie. Hey Lizzie, it's guys. I'm going to be staying up late for this. Yay, it's 7 p.m. already. Why hasn't she started? Guys, it's so hard to start a live stream. You have to do a good thumbnail. Then I have to figure out like how I'm going to charge my phone. I guess it's not that hard. It's always hard because I have to get my food ready and then you have to make sure your hair looks good, everything. Filming takes so long leading up to. Technical difficulty. Okay, maybe she should try Instagram. Lizzie, I miss you. Professor Cashew, I miss you too. I did not do a good job uploading last week. One of my best friends is getting married. Not best friend. She's a couple years older than me in Pepperdine. So she's like my older sister. So my older sister figure is getting married and she's like redoing a house with her fiance, and so I got to help them build and it was so fun. And so we were just staying up really late and it was one of those things where you value people above everything. It was one of those situations, so it was like work is not important at all with the people who I was with. So that was why I didn't film, but now I'm back at working. Jews are creating homosexuals and transgenders with remote mind control technology. Are you manic right now? Hi Lizzie, Liaison Violet 3. Lee, what are you talking about, right? Vincent, thank you for the donation. I promise if there's more super comments, I'm going to actually read them. Lizzie, I'm moving tomorrow. I sent a video live Instagram of my new apartment. I was getting notifications from you, but I've been so busy. So message me again and I will respond. We should live stream and not live stream. We should so what is wrong with my brain? I slept so much last night. Anyways, we can video chat on Instagram or Snapchat and you can give me a tour of your apartment. It'd be so fun. Which country are you in? I'm in the United States on the East Coast. Our roti, pray for my Protestant friend who is converting. I will. Anyways, my friend who I was talking about, who I was with last week, is becoming Catholic. My older sister figure from my college, and it's like the most exciting thing ever because I wasn't expecting her to convert. It just kind of happened because there's some of my friends who I'm praying for to convert and like sending them resources and doing Bible studies explaining Catholicism. But she was someone who I wasn't even like wanting to convert. It just happened. And so it was the most exciting thing ever. Obviously, a lot of people were praying for her. Okay. What does cafeteria? Justin, never feel like you're not allowed to doubt and ask questions. Yay, welcome, Journey to Peace. Hi Lizzie, hi Michael. Oh my goodness, my husband and I predicted you become Catholic. Journey to Peace, peace. Yeah, you haven't been here in a while? Absolutely, everyone was. It's good to doubt. You should always doubt and question, and then we find out why the truth is what it is. My strongest conviction came from my biggest doubts. Educated myself and became more convicted. Plus prayer. Are you Catholic now? Yes! Okay. Let's see. Hi, Lizzie. Yay. Lee, you're about to be timed out with your nonsense, right? What does cafeteria Catholic mean? Okay. So, cafeteria Catholic is a term that... Why am I not in the center? Cafeteria Catholic is a term that I heard a lot as a Protestant, kind of as an attack on Catholics, that there's tons of Catholics who disagree with the church on major things. And I think it's America. Most Americans are cafeteria Catholics in that they might go to mass and they believe in Catholicism, but then there are huge theology things that they completely disagree with. And they've done surveys like this where 90% of Catholics use birth control, 60% of Catholics want the church to accept gay marriage, just things that will never ever change, cannot change, because they contradict the teachings of Jesus and the early church on marriage and sex. So for the pilgrimage of Lizzie, Edward, thanks so much for the donation. Love you. Vincent, Josh might with me. You want to surprise him? Yeah, we can all chat. DM me. Thank you for the donation. When I get married, come to my wedding. Guys, I'm serious. I will come to your weddings. I've wanted so badly to be invited to someone's wedding, especially So back in the day, I primarily made relationship advice videos, and so many people messaged me and they're like, the reason I'm in my relationship is because of your advice. Like, I got into my relationship because of you. And I mean, even people who are like, we're engaged now, like I never would have made a move without what you said. Like, you helped me communicate with her. And so I've literally like been part of people's marriages and stuff. So I really want to attend someone's wedding. Please invite me. I'll go if I'm in the area. Hello from California. Hi, Paul. Okay, let's go up, go. Okay, also, so start commenting, because I'm like slowly going through the comments. Start commenting what you struggle with in Catholicism, what you struggled with when you were converting, and what you struggle with now. I will be really open and tell you what I currently am struggling with and probably always will. It's not what you think. That opened my eyes, Rocio. I never heard of cafeteria Catholics until now. Yeah, I think that it's a Protestant term, I know. So my first boyfriend in college was Catholic and my dad hated it. I don't think he thought I would convert. I don't think he thought I'd be as bad as I did with like leaving Protestantism. But I remember my dad, let's say this guy's name is Chris. My dad was like, I wish Chris was here. Here's the catechism. Let's go through it. He must disagree with it. And he was like, my dad was so angry because he was saying, if Chris doesn't agree with everything, then you're not a Catholic. Like, it disproves Catholicism if you're a Catholic and you disagree with it, which is totally wrong. It doesn't like disprove the church. But if there's lots of people living out their faith who disagree with the church on really big things, it's really bad for the church, you know? Okay. I struggle with the Catholic Church teaching on gay marriage because it seems so hard to them and I want them to be happy. Absolutely. I feel the same way. I think that especially in the US, it's becoming so normal with gay marriage being legalized. And like, when gay marriage was legalized, I thought it was a good thing, honestly. Like, I wanted it to be legal, and it was so weird to me that people thought it was a negative thing. I know that growing up, like in high school, so a lot of my friends, not a lot, but you know, my friends were gay, openly gay in college. Like, you just know people and it just seems like the most normal thing. And so it's so hard to think, why would the church not want equality? Why would it be against love? And it's not against love. I think that the new Taylor Swift song, I might make a music video, not a music video. The new Taylor Swift song discusses this, and she makes it very diametric. So she says that she has, you know, signs of people against the Pride March where like, God hates you, homosexuality is evil, you're awful. And then she makes the people who are part of the Pride Parade, and she basically is making a blanket statement like, anyone who has same-sex attraction or is trans is totally against Christians, hates Christianity. And it's kind of like this dichotomy of the two, very annoying Swift. It's this dichotomy of the two positions that I really hate, because there are loads of people who are attracted to the same gender who are Christians and who agree with the church. And then the majority of Christians do not hate gay people and don't show up to the marches telling them they're going to hell. And I know that in Catholicism too, no one thinks, it's against church teaching to think that just because someone is gay, they are going to hell. And for something to be a mortal sin, someone has to be fully aware that it is a sin. And so I think that like 90% of Catholics use birth control, that's also a mortal sin. So I think people view it as like, all gays are going to hell. And the Catholic Church, it doesn't teach that. If you're born with a certain sexual attraction, you can't change that about yourself. But I think that like the world, our culture is trying to say that like there's two extremes and you have to choose one. But I would say that there's a third way, and that the Catholic Church is very, very balanced. And I know many of my subscribers who are gay are down for celibacy, and they have so many amazing friendships with people, and they don't feel like they're being oppressed or hated. Okay. So I would say yes, that becoming Catholic, the gay marriage teaching was definitely the hardest. That and birth control, even more than the Marian dogmas. Just because I have so many of my subscribers who have had horrible experiences with their families, who've been kicked out of their houses, like cutting, attempted suicide, such extreme things by Christians. And so in my mind, it felt like if you don't accept gay marriage and you don't go all the way left, then you're causing people to be suicidal. That's how I thought of it in my head, because I had so many subscribers who grew up in these Christian homes that were against gay marriage, and they were so hated and hurt by it. And so in my head, and I think that our culture is promoting this too, it's kind of like if you don't support gay marriage all the way, then you're causing so much harm and distress and hate. And I think that it's not that black and white at all. It isn't smart to be gay in Wyoming. Someone got tied to a fence and left in the woods. That's awful. It's so scary. And I think stuff like that is why people feel like you can't even say that in like marriages between a man and a woman in the Bible, that Jesus taught that, like you can't even say that, because it seems to invalidate the experience of a lot of abuse that does happen. And not just emotional, physical too. Some of my friends said the song is anti-Christian. I think so too. She refers to the Dark Ages and how she refers to Christians, and the term Dark Ages is kind of a slur of the Middle Ages, because during the Middle Ages, it was the most flourishing time intellectually. The Catholic Church was creating hospitals, developing academia, beautiful churches, art, so much philosophy and theology, monastic life. Like, it was not the Dark Ages. It was so much flourishing intellectually and artistically. And so this idea that it's promoted in all of our public schools, where there were the first like 4 centuries of the church or of society, and then we don't learn anything until like the Black Plague and the Protestant Reformation. Like, there's this huge gap of 1,000 years that we never learn about in school. And so it's kind of like the Dark Ages. We can't even talk about what happened. It's so awful. And so anytime you use the phrase Dark Ages, it's kind of a slur against Catholicism. That's honestly how it feels. Either that or you're just really ignorant. And it did rhyme with the lyric, so I understand that. But it was still so awful. I literally have no clue how to deal with the LGBT community. And now some of my Catholic friends are hating on me for loving the new Taylor Swift song. I love the new Taylor Swift song though. Like, I disagree with it, but I've been blasting it on repeat. So some of my people on Twitter were messaging me and they're like, Liz, you can't like Taylor Swift anymore. And the day before, or a week before, someone was like, Ariana Grande donated to Planned Parenthood. You can't listen to her anymore. And guys, I'm 24 years old. I'm not gonna be emotionally affected so much by a musician I listen to that's gonna just cause me to leave my convictions and change my beliefs. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not an impressionable 14-year-old. So yeah, I don't look up to musicians as where I get my ethics from, and I don't idolize these people. I just listen to their songs. So I'm also so lost on how my point of view should be about the LGBT community. I don't understand it. I'm not Catholic, but I struggle with the fact that a lot of Christians, this is Mimi, don't support birth control because not all people use it for not getting pregnant. Okay, so I think I read someone replying to that in the comments, but you can use birth control if it's for medical reasons. The only reason to not use birth control is if you're choosing to prevent pregnancy. And okay, the craziest thing, so in my ethics class in college, there's this one guy who was like really into virtue ethics and Aquinas. And this guy became Catholic like 2 years later. So looking back, I'm like, oh, that makes sense that he became Catholic. He was so into Aquinas. But he brought up this thing called the principle of double effects. And it was just the strangest thing that he introduced into a discussion. And I was like, this is so weird. I'm never going to think about it again. This isn't going to be applicable to my life. And then when I learned about birth control, I was like, oh my gosh, principle of double effects. So the principle of double effects says if you do some action, if you take some action and you do it for the intention of one thing. But then that causes something else that you do not intend. You are not morally at fault for what happens as a result of it. I'm not explaining that perfectly, but the idea is that, so you're using birth control for medical reasons, and that's a good, a virtuous thing, and that's ethical, and it's allowed by the church. Because you're doing it for an ethical reason, that's causing you to not get pregnant, to prevent pregnancy, but that's the double effect, and so you're not at fault because you're only using it for that one thing. Does that make sense? So yeah, it's the craziest thing, because this was my sophomore year in college, and I like last year thought back to that, and I was like, wow, like that's what he was talking about. Hi Lizzie, God you bless. Joshua, I sent you a DM on Instagram. Okay, I might read it, I might not. Sorry, I get so many messages, like I can't promise to reply to everyone, right? Congrats, Lizzie. It looks like you're drinking milk. Almond milk. Oh my gosh, I should have said that. This is almond milk. No animals were harmed in the production. You remind me of Taylor Swift. You resemble her physically and the way you talk because you're so positive. That's my doppelganger. People have been saying that for so long. Also, Bridget Mendler. Those are the two people. This is so good, my rice. Stop abusing the almonds. They have feelings too. Zinga, have a great night. I have to go back to work. Good night. Good night. I'm wearing the St. Michael's necklace. Aww. I struggle with purgatory. What do you think about it? So purgatory was actually easy for me to accept just because my dad believes in purgatory, which is so random, but as a Protestant, it just made sense to him that people should have kind of another chance to get into heaven if they weren't able to fully commit to God on earth. It just kind of made sense to him, and it makes sense to me just because I'm really, really intense about changing myself and cutting away from me, like evil parts of me that are not Christian. So, and it's really, really painful. Like when I was growing up, I was very argumentative and angry and combative, and I just constantly viewed it as like being right and arguing with people and not being controlled and rebelling against my parents. I was just so intense and awful. And I realized that as a Christian, I can't be angry, I can't be constantly arguing with people, I can't be impatient. And so I had to read my Bible every single day. Like if I didn't read my Bible every day, I was an awful person, and I was mean to people and interrupting and combative and not kind to people, not kind to my family. And so when I was in high school, I would literally read my Bible every morning, and if I didn't, it directly affected my behavior. And it was so hard dying to myself. It's like when you get braces growing up and you're like shifting your teeth over, it's like constant pressure to change, and it's really, really painful. And so it makes sense to me that if someone doesn't do that on earth, they have the opportunity to do it in purgatory. And so it's not that God is torturing people, it's just that people are choosing to change all the way, and that intrinsically is painful. So purgatory is really easy for me to accept. But what is really hard to accept still is the problem of evil. I almost stopped believing in God 3 years ago, 2016, because of the problem of evil, because going through such severe depression and seeing so many shootings in the country and reading about North Korea and thinking of sexual assault victims, it's just like, why does God allow all of this and so much pain and sorrow? And a lot of it is meaningless. You're not going to get anything out of it. And even as a Catholic, even though it's kind of this idea of, intertwining your sufferings with Christ and taking those sufferings and using them to pray for other people, And just understanding as well, like the crucifix, how it's the center of the church, and realizing that Jesus went through so much pain and he understands everything, like that's helpful, and I understand it intellectually, but there's still times where it's so hard for me to understand why God would let people suffer and hurt. And I think especially with my bipolar, it's something where, like, obviously I'm able to help so many people, and so in this situation it's like obviously God's bringing good out of that, but not everyone is like this. There are some people who commit suicide, and there are many people with illnesses who are not healed. And I was listening to this Mother Angelica video last night, and it was so amazing, but there were a lot of people calling in talking about miracles and healing. And I was thinking, for as many people who are calling in and their relative was healed and their baby was saved, their like premature baby was saved from dying, all these things, there are probably like 10 times as many people who there wasn't healing and they did die and they had an awful life because of some disability. And so it's hard for me to, going along with this, to believe that prayers can really change people. Like praying for things like petitionary prayer, and I do pray for things that are kind of more basic, like if I want someone to get a job, or I want one of my friends to heal, or I want someone to become a Christian, like it's easier for me to do petitionary prayers about smaller things in life. But when it comes to huge miracle type things with healing, or actually no, I don't pray a lot for people to become Catholic. I mean, it depends on the person. Like with my parents, I don't pray for them to become Catholic that much because I'm like, oh, it's not gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like, I don't believe that strongly about God intervening in the world or having a plan for my life or anything, just because I've seen so much pain. And so it's hard for me to believe that God does intervene because of all the other times he doesn't intervene. Like, that's just so hard for me. And I think that when people talk about things like that, it's still hard. Does that make sense? So that is like probably one of the things. This makes me sad. Talk about happy things. Hi Lizzie, full support on here from the Philippines. Sorry guys, I'm being so sad. She was argumentative and combative all the time. I was a horrible child. Like, if I have kids, they're gonna be so bad growing up because I was so rebellious. Almond butter is so good. I should also point out that the LGBT parade is called Pride Parade, and pride is one of the 7 deadly sins. It should be a red flag. Yeah, and I think that they're just defining pride different than we are. But still, like, you shouldn't be calling your movement that. Thank you for being so transparent. This means a lot to me. There are only Catholics in heaven. Absolutely not. We don't know that. When Jesus was dying on the cross, there's the person hanging on the cross next to him, and Jesus said, "Today you will be with me in my kingdom." And he was not Jewish on earth. He wasn't a follower of Christ, but Jesus just let him into heaven because, you know, he confessed and trusted Jesus. So one of my favorite lines in the catechism that I've had memorized for a long time, it says, "Those who through no fault of their own do not know of Christ or his church," so meaning the Catholic Church, "may obtain eternal salvation." So it's not saying everyone will be saved, but it's saying that they have the opportunity to come to Christ and to go through purgatory and change all the way and know God, even if they're not baptized and knowing God on earth. We don't know who goes to heaven. Yeah, and that's something I really love about Catholicism. God is so above us, and I always hated how confident people are in other churches about who's being saved and who's going to hell. It's like, how can you as a human be so full of yourself to think you know the mind of God? It's crazy. I don't understand it. God allows bad things because of free will. I know, and see, a lot of these arguments, like, they work intellectually, But when you're the one being psychologically or physically tortured, it's hard for that to stick, you know? Okay. I'm reading here, guys. I drank Red Bull. Okay, this can't be real. I was just getting in an argument. Are you like listening to my conversations? I was just getting in a really intense discussion with my friend I'm staying with right now about Red Bull. It's so bad, guys. So they mess with your heart. So in the future, it could probably cause like premature heart attacks or strokes. And what's so scary is we don't even know, because when you introduce a new product into the world that like you're consuming or putting on your skin, you don't know the effects of it until you die. So an example is women donating their eggs. Who would guess that giving a really strong hormone which causes the eggs to be released, whatever, who thought that that would cause ovarian cancer in a couple decades in the person? We didn't know this until someone donated their eggs at 18 and then died at 30 of cancer. Like, you don't know that. So I think we should all be very, very cautious about taking in any substance. Another example is Botox and injections, like lip injections, under eye injections. All these things are new, and I just think people need to like take a step back and research more and really analyze if it's going to hurt your body. So Red Bull is one of those things where it like unnaturally affects your heart and your energy levels, and it's not like coffee. It's so bad. And so we don't know how bad that's going to be. So what I really recommend is sleeping, having a normal sleep schedule, trying to prioritize getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night. Your health is so important. You cannot be the best person at loving yourself, at loving other people, if you don't take care of your health. So sleep. And if you do need to be energized, I really recommend something called Fit Aid. My boyfriend's twin brother is so obsessed with them. When I met his family for the first time a couple months ago, I don't know, his brother had just found out about Fit Aid, and he was like going on this like beautiful rant about how amazing they are. And I looked at the back of them, and they just have 5,000% every vitamin. So like vitamin B, vitamin E, vitamin C, folate, iron. They have like 5,000% of everything, and it gives you the same effect of Red Bull, except in a healthy way. So I really recommend Fit Aid. Totally made me wonder, and I'd imagine if energy drinks are getting off my drink list now that you mentioned it. Yeah. And it's something where, oh, it's so normal, you don't even think about it. I have kidney stones, can't drink Red Bull. Did it give you kidney stones? I thought just dehydration. Right? I've met people who have the intellectual to tell people who's going to hell. Wasn't there a pope that talked about the possibility of atheists being in heaven? I mean, I think like many popes would agree with that. Probably John Paul II. Respect from Compton. I eat peanut butter like that too. It's amazing. I'm eating almond butter though. I'm so hungry, guys. I'm reading through your comments. What about ignorance? Wouldn't willful ignorance also be considered a sin? Yeah. So that's like what I was talking about, where those who through no fault of their own may come into heaven if you have like enough evidence to research in, but you don't. That's really, really problematic. What kind of rice did you spice up? I just do brown rice. So I just cook brown rice in a rice cooker on the stove, and then I just saute it with chili powder and fresh garlic and kale and tomato, so avocado too. I really like your channel, Lizzie, but I have to go to work now. Great day ahead, guys. Good night. Pope Francis said that about atheists. Francis said atheists could go to heaven, then backed off. Weird. For people who like energy drinks, you should try Zip Fizz. Never heard of that, not promoting it. Hi, Lizzie, I miss you. I miss you too. Sorry, Lizzie, I have a Red Bill sticker. Yeah, get rid of it for sure. Okay. It's already been 40 minutes? What? Just a curious question, Lizzie. Would empathy be a key aspect of demonstrating God's love with others, even if you don't like them? Okay, I think it's really important to understand that emotions are not actions. You can feel something, and if you don't do anything with it, it's somewhat meaningless. So you can feel really, really compassionate, you can share in people's sufferings, you can cry with them, you can want to exist in darkness with them, but you have to express that. It has to be an action. So I think it's really important to forgive people and to treat them with grace and love regardless of what they did to you. And obviously you should cut people out of your life if they're abusive. And recently I was talking to a priest or something, or one of my friends, who was saying, like, reiterating what I've heard my whole life, where in Catholicism we don't have divorce, but if you're being abused by your husband or if you're being abused by your wife, get out of the situation, move out of the apartment, move out of the house. That's what the church wants you to do. Because if you're in a situation where you're getting abused, you're enabling the other person to keep hurting you. And so you need to get out of the situation. And so I think in that sense, I'm not saying with forgiving people or with always empathizing with people to stay in abusive situations, absolutely not. But the way you talk to people who have hurt you, you can do it in a compassionate, kind, gentle way, even if they have mistreated you. St. Paul defines love in 1 Corinthians 13. Love is patient, love is kind, love does not envy, love forgives all, trusts all. Try drinking a glass of water before breakfast, it'll help your metabolism. Anyways, so the way you feel towards people is relevant if it causes you to treat them in a more gracious and gentle way. But I think that what's really important, and this kind of relates to what I was saying with people are really, really hurting from things, we need to be in people's darkness with them. If one of your friends is struggling with a mental illness, if they're sick in the hospital, if they're going through a breakup, if they're really hurting from something, you need to be with them in their darkness. And I think it's really, I've been talking about this a lot recently with my friends, how just being disappointed by certain people in my life who I thought I could rely on, it's really easy to be friends with someone if everything is great and you're just having fun and hanging out and going to meals and going to the beach and shopping and just having fun, you know? Like, it's so easy to be a good friend when you're just doing things that are fun and when everyone's happy. But someone proves to be a friend and you prove to be an empathetic person when someone in your life is going through something awful and it is not fun, it's not happy to spend time with them. And I really learned this in college. I mean, when my depression was coming out and my bipolar, there were some people who were like close to me who ditched me and did nothing and didn't put in effort to help me. And there were other people who stepped up and who went like above and beyond and would like walk out of their class and, you know, take time away from their studies to be with me when I was in that really deep depression. And I've tried to always do the same for friends, where if someone is going through a breakup or if they're really sad or hurting from something, like, hang out with the person who's really sad and sick and hurting rather than just hanging out with other people who are fun and happy and strong. Like, at the end of the day, so many people are going to go through horrible things, and if you only stick with people who are going to be happy and fun, like, you're not a good person. You know what I mean? Like, it's so easy when the Josh speaks, "Hey Lizzie, hi, how are you?" So yeah, with empathy, it has to be an action or the emotion is meaningless. Fair enough, but again, it could just be a warning of the future. Howdy from the great state of Texas. Hi. Could I tell you how to process it? Confirmed by Our Lady of Fatima. All the love for Lizzie. Love you, Meg. I get it that Catholicism has weird practices, but it's a beautiful kind of weird. Doesn't work with mental illness. I don't tell people about my bipolar. I think that it's a really new thing for people to be able to be open about mental illness, but I have found that I've been very, very honest and open with everyone in my life, and I found that people really, really are there for me and want to walk with me in my darkness. So I think that if you're just brave and start talking to people about it, then, and I find too, anytime I say I'm bipolar, there's more and more people who have a family member or a friend who also struggles with it. Like, it's 1% of the population, which is a lot of people. So are divorces allowed in the Catholic Church if a wife is abused by her husband? I don't know, you can get out of the, I feel like divorce is, yeah, you can get divorced. Divorce is allowed. I think you could not get remarried if you were divorced, but if there's an annulment, like if the woman did not fully consent to the relationship, then you can get an annulment, which I feel like in an abusive relationship, if you find out that you've been manipulated or something, then it could be an annulment. So absolutely get out of the situation. Mimi. I'm struggling with hell. I think our sins cannot be bigger than God's mercy. I would not be able to be in a celibate same-sex partnership without failing miserably at the celibacy part, but that doesn't mean someone else would be unsuccessful at it. I think that if, like, you shouldn't be, like, I've talked to priests about this, and they say that you shouldn't be in, like, a marriage-like relationship. If you are, like, sexually attracted to them, that's not smart. But I know for me, I'm celibate in my relationship, and if at the beginning of my relationship with my boyfriend, it was kind of like we could never be physical with each other, I don't know if it would work. I feel like some people, you can be, like, attracted to their soul and not be, like, such sexual attraction. So maybe you could be best friends with someone, but I think it, like, depends on the relationship, right? Like, you don't want to be constantly, like, feeling like you want something physical, but it depends for everyone. Bipolar type 1 is 1%. If you factor in type 2, it's closer to 3 or 4%. I had no idea. I've noticed too, more and more people are being diagnosed with bipolar who don't have it. I mean, same with everything, right? Like, my next video is talking about gender dysphoria and trans people. And there are so many people recently who are identifying themselves with trans who don't have gender dysphoria because it's becoming trendy to identify with it. And I think it's so problematic when things like mental illness and gender dysphoria start to become trendy. Like, I don't get it. but I kind of understand why, because like with bipolar disorder, it's a huge camaraderie with my videos, and when I meet people who are bipolar, like you have so many similarities and shared struggles, and it's like being part of an in group. And so I think the same thing happens with people who are identifying as trans, who don't even have gender dysphoria, but they kind of like subtly relate to some of the symptoms, and they just want to be part of the group. Like that genuinely happens. Hi Lizzie, greetings from India. Hi Ritik Tapno. This is so sad, Danielle. Oh my gosh, guys. Sorry, guys. I wish I could show you how the thing is balanced. One of my own friends just recently started calling himself non-binary. I really have a problem with all the how people are trying to identify as so many different sexualities and genders, just because there is a small segment of the population that is attracted to people of the opposite gender or bisexual, and there is another small segment of the population that has diagnosable gender dysphoria. And then there are a lot of other people who are wanting to be part of the movement because it's kind of an exclusive group who don't even relate to it. So someone who is non-binary, like lots of people do not fit fully with their gender. Like I don't at all relate to being female in so many ways. Like yes, I'm really empathetic and I love helping people and I'm good at emotional support, but my mind is very like action oriented and I'm horrible at multitasking. I'm a very visual person and I'm just very good at leadership. I'm so tired, guys. I'm very good at analytical leader logic. I'm very like intense in that area, and I'm not a very sensitive and compassionate person in a lot of ways. Like I am compassionate about certain things, but when it comes to like people situations, it's so hard for me to be able to communicate in an emotional way. Like I'm very much just like huge work ethic and being really assertive and argumentative. And so my hair is not, usually I can just like mess with my hair, but it's not doing well today. So I don't relate to a lot of parts of being female, and like my major in college, like majority guys, and my debate event, like a lot of my friends growing up, I was always like the like few females with a ton of guys. That's just how I've always been, how my personality is. So I don't fit with being female all the way. Like I don't fit into that gender. But it doesn't matter. Like, you don't need to fit yourself into 50 different categories. Everyone is a unique individual. So absolutely, there are people who actually have gender dysphoria who want to cut off parts of their body. They feel like they're trapped in a rat cage in the wrong body. And it's horrifying. There's a segment of the population that actually has gender dysphoria. And then there are all these other people who just want to identify with things to fit their personality. And it illegitimizes the entire trans movement. And I don't think people realize it, because I think a lot of people identifying on these spectrums of genders, they don't understand, like they don't have any people in their life who are more conservative or centrist. They're only surrounding themselves by this really liberal crowd. But most people in the country do not understand gender dysphoria and aren't going to research into it. Instead, they hear all these people identifying as 50 genders, and so in their mind they're like, wow, people who are trans, there's 50 genders. And then you lose the whole gender dysphoria, the people who are actually struggling, you lose that within all these genders. And so I think people just, they like to feel like they can identify with all these things, but it doesn't matter. Just be yourself. Be however you want to be. Do whatever career you want. Be whatever gender roles you want in your relationship, right? Like, it's 2019. You can do whatever you want. There aren't gender roles in society. So I just don't understand why it's necessary to identify with all these things. And see, that's my masculine brain kicking in. I don't have empathy for these issues, and all I care about is utility, so labels are meaningless. But Yeah, like I've been thinking of making a video on this because I was actually looking through all the different genders and sexualities, and I related to a lot of them, like so many of them. So if I wanted to be one of these people who labels myself as different things, I could do it. Like I was like, oh my gosh, like same solidarity, but it's not necessary. Just be yourself, you know? Like I don't understand. And it's very American too. That's what people don't realize. People have like zero contextualization of how the rest of the world works. In America, it's very individualistic, it's very black and white and categorizing. And so this is a uniquely Western problem, and it's not going to catch on in the rest of the world. Also, I was talking about this on Twitter, everyone loved this, but I was saying how we shouldn't be scared of the whole SJW agenda because oh my gosh, there's a bug that was so scary. So, oh my gosh, guys. So, the people who are identifying as hundreds of different genders and the people who want partial birth abortions and all these things don't like children. I did not kill the bug. Does that make sense? Like people who are pro-abortion, want to use birth control, a lot of these people genuinely don't want to have children, don't like children. And so who are the people who are having a lot of children in the world? Catholics and Muslims. Right? And Christianity is growing the most in Africa because they're having more children. And if you walk into any Latin Mass church in the US, you'll see that most of the families have like at least 4 kids, and a lot of them will be young. Like I've seen families where their oldest kid looks like 12 or something, and they have like 5 of them. So the way to pass on your ideology long term is to be really set in your convictions, flourish fully philosophically, be obsessed with God, research in, develop your soul, and then have children and pour all of that into them. That's how you pass on your ideology. And obviously it's really important to convert people to Christianity in society and bring people to know God, but at the end of the day, when it comes to just population and statistics, the people who have the most children are the ones who will pass on their ideology. It also seems like my generation, I'm 15, so Gen Z, are more accepting of gay and trans relationships because of YouTubers, actors, and TV shows. Absolutely. Absolutely. I found that too, like, I watched Pretty Little Liars, was this TV show when I was in high school, and one of the characters, Shay Mitchell, was gay, and it made me a lot more empathetic towards those people, and I think it's actually really positive. Like, you shouldn't hate them, but absolutely I think that a lot of social media influencers and YouTubers are identifying as these things and are these things, and so it just is become more normalized. But I'm not talking about people, it's beyond just people who are born, who are attracted to the same gender or have gender dysphoria, but it's beyond that, where more people are like, oh, is this me? In a way that never would have happened before. I wish there were more genuine Christian YouTubers like you, Lizzie. You are a true godsend. For me, I was raised Catholic and have gone to Catholic school my whole life. And it's weird when you finally learn stuff about the world outside of the Catholic bubble. See, that's why I'm really against homeschooling, because I think that it's important to be integrated with other people and to share your Christianity with other people at school. I thought that was so important. Like at my school, there were tons of atheists in my high school, and I was constantly debating with the teachers, you know? Mukbang, I was thinking of having homeschool as an option, actually. Actually, me too. It's I've been against homeschooling my whole life just because I think it's so important, like what I just said. And I think that it's good too to have free time and to not constantly be around the kids. I know that some people disagree, but since I have a career, I would want to have time at home once they're older to just like do things. But I think that the more and more that people are pushing this like LGBT agenda, and again, like you guys know me and my channel, I'm not at all for like hating on, oppressing, mistreating people who are trans, who are like have gender dysphoria or same-sex attraction. But the problem is that they're closing down Catholic adoption centers and they're firing teachers from schools who don't call a kid by their pronoun. But it's just too far. I mean, it's not that they want to be left alone, is how it started originally. They just want to be able to have gay marriage and live their life and not be affected by other people. But now they're going the other way and they're not letting Christians be. We just want to have an adoption center and send kids to a husband and wife. That's all we want. The Catholic Adoption Center. They're just doing good. They're giving babies to families who want to have a child. It's such a good thing. And then they're shut down because they don't cave to this agenda. And I mean, it's the same thing. Like, I read a story of some teacher who in her school, she was supposed to call the kid by their other pronoun. And like, personally, I don't care. Like, I call people by preferred pronouns. It doesn't mean anything to me in what I'm saying or my ideology. I just think, like, you know, that's kind. Like, a lot of my friends have nicknames. I don't care. Some people, though, they feel like that goes against their personal values and their faith to call someone by the opposite pronoun if they are transitioning or they have transitioned. And so I feel like that should be a personal choice. Like, I think it's good to be respectful to people, and I feel like I've decided I'm fine with calling people by their preferred pronouns, but tons of Americans are not, tons of Christians are not, tons of Catholics are not. And so by forcing teachers to do that, or you're fired, that's awful. It's not like, oh, I just want to like flourish on my own, don't bother me. It's like, we're just trying to flourish on our own, don't bother us. And so that's why it's just causing more and more and more divide in the country, and it's so unnecessary. And because they're using rights language, it will go more and more and more in like making Christians cave on their beliefs. And I remember when the Colorado baker had to shut down or had to go to the Supreme Court about not giving a cake to a gay couple. I was kind of like, oh, like this is one example, it won't happen again. But it keeps getting worse and worse with businesses having to close down, and especially with the pronouns. Like, I would call someone by the same pronoun, but in America, like, we don't force our beliefs on other people. And because they're calling it a rights issue, they're getting people fired. And it's just, like, it's too far. It's way too far. And I feel like in public schools, they're forcing this ideology on children. And I just think that it's an ideology. So, yeah, that's why I've honestly been, like, thinking of homeschooling, because it's just going too far. And I think that we should all just like meet in the middle. And a lot of people might disagree with me on this, but I think it's good to have gay marriage legalized, and just in the US. Like, ideally, it shouldn't, but in the US, because we have so many different cultures in the country, and it is not a Christian country. Like, for example, Ireland is a Catholic country. Pretty much everyone in Ireland is Catholic. And so for them, their point of view, like, we shouldn't legalize gay marriage. We have a theocracy type thing happening. Obviously not, but like everyone's basically Catholic culturally. But in our country, we have so many different religions and viewpoints, and so it just makes sense to me, like, let's just legalize this. It's not a Christian country, we're not a theocracy. Some people may disagree. But if that was it, if we were just like, okay, this is legalized, you can do marriage however you want, multiple people can get married whatever you want, it's chill, like, if that was it, that'd be great. But then it went all the way to the other direction, where it's like, if your adoption center that is religious will not give to a gay couple, if you will not sing at a gay wedding, give flowers to a gay wedding, all of these things, if you're not wedding planner to a gay wedding, then you're closing your business down, you're getting fined tens of thousands of dollars. You know what I mean? Like, we should just meet in the middle and be like, okay, we're gonna legalize gay marriage, and don't obviously oppress people at their jobs, like don't fire people because of their sexual attraction, obviously, but you know, it's just they're not meeting in the middle, and so that makes people on the right even more and more angry and even more pushing against it. And I just don't understand why, like, if we just want peace and they just want to be left alone, then leave us alone. You know what I mean? I just don't understand. I feel like if I was a leader of either side, I would be able to get people to calm down and get along. How do you feel about the filioque controversy? Oh, Michelle Alta did a super comment. Thank you, Lizzie, for all your work. Thank you for the donation. Okay, the filioque controversy. So the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church split in 1089. At 1054? 1089? What? Why are these both numbers in my mind? Which is it, guys? So they split, and 1054, thank you. One of the big theological differences is part of the creed, which is called the filioque. So in Catholic Mass, when we say the Nicene Creed, we say, the Holy Spirit, I believe in the Holy Spirit, the Lord, the giver of life, who proceeds from the Father and the Son, who with the Father and the Son is adored and glorified. But in the Orthodox Church, when they say the Nicene Creed, they say, I believe in the Holy Spirit, the Lord, the giver of life, who proceeds from the Father. And they don't say the Son. And so that's the difference. And I actually think of that almost every single time I say the creed. And I just think it's so crazy how much love and intricacy went into every single line of the creed. Like how much God loved and how much the bishops and the church leaders and the laity loved so much that every single word is stoked with so much meaning. I think it's so beautiful. And so I always think of that and just how, you know, there were so many debates and so many people fighting for us to know truth so that we can best emulate and live for God in our lives. So I think it's really beautiful. And I think of, obviously, like there's the theology of it, but I kind of just see it from an emotional perspective, how it's amazing how much debate went into like one little line. So, but I think that we don't really disagree with each other, like empirically on it. I think that the West had a lot of controversies and heresies that the Eastern Church didn't have. And so because of that, we had to add more and more and more details and intricacy into our theology. And so in that sense, the Eastern Orthodox Church hasn't developed and isn't as detailed in their theology, even though we basically agree on everything. And it's just because we have different heresies in the West. So yeah, but I think with reuniting, like we don't disagree diametrically on it, right? I have had a hard time lately accepting Eucharistic adoration. I feel it is a stretch to take and eat. This is my body. I feel it is a stretch to take and eat. This is my body. To take and make this as an object of worship. So I think that the theology of the Eucharist is really, really hard, and it's definitely one of the hardest doctrines in Catholicism. And I think a lot of people, I took for granted how difficult it is emotionally, just because I'm not an emotional person when it comes to stuff like this. I'm very much like, is it true or is it not true? It doesn't matter how I feel about it, it matters if it is true. And so for me, when I read John 6 talking about eat my flesh, I looked at the Greek word trogon, which is only used like 5 times in the entire Bible, and it's animals chewing and gnawing on nuts and raw vegetables. That's what the word means, that's it. And so for me, and then reading a few quotes from the 1st century about how they believed in real presence, you can't be a Christian if you don't believe in real presence, to me, it's just like, that's true. And that was it. But I understand that for a lot of people, it's so impossible almost to understand how something like a piece of bread can change into actual body. Like, this is not consecrated, but like this is a piece of bread. And it's so like beyond comprehension to understand. And I think something really beautiful, this was like one of my first moments at my current church in California. We were talking about the Trinity, and I was saying how I've never really understood the Trinity. It's my whole life, it's been so hard. And they're like, oh, absolutely, it's so impossible to understand. And they're like, yeah, it's so hard to understand. It's like impossible, it's like beyond us. And in all my churches growing up, it was kind of pushed on us, like so obvious, like water, ice, steam type thing. But I always never understood it. And so it was like my first time going to my church, my first Catholic Bible study, and they were just affirming that there's so many things about God that are mysterious and impossible to grasp and impossible to fully understand. And so the Eucharist is one of them. Like, we can believe it's true and know it's true, but it's like beyond our comprehension how that can happen. And so I think that, yeah, it's really hard to understand. And I think that for me emotionally with it, I have always had times growing up where I just would hang out with God. And it was just something that came so naturally to me. Like in college, sometimes I would like get my lunch from the cafeteria and I would like take it to go and just like go sit like on a bench in a field by myself and just like hang out with God and not say anything. And it was just so like natural. And once I understood Eucharistic adoration, that Jesus is physically there, it's not just like the Holy Spirit, I'm hanging out with Jesus, but Jesus is there physically. I connected it so much to my intuition, like this innate thing inside me where we can just hang out with God without words. We can just be together. And so absolutely, God puts all these innate intuitions about who he is and about morality inside us. And I think a lot of people forget this because the churches I grew up in were constantly talking about how God instills in all of us a conscience, and we think of it as what's right or wrong, and God gives us wisdom on that. But God also gives us wisdom on how to worship him and how to know him and how to relate to him and how to love ourselves. And so obviously intuitions can be wrong, and many of my intuitions are wrong. I think most of my intellectual intuitions are like completely off, and it's ridiculous how wrong my intuitions are. But other times I have intuitions about God that are exactly accurate and that match up with Catholicism. So that's how I understood it. I'm really confused on the main difference on Christian and Catholic. Doesn't matter how I feel about it, what matters if it's true. Absolutely. So Christian and Catholic. So what I absolutely love is I've met people who grew up in Catholic communities, like one of my friends who I just met, who I was at one of my friend's bachelorette party, and one of her friends grew up in Minnesota, and she said that her whole life she didn't understand that there were other Protestants. She just thought that Catholic is Christian. And one of my friends in Brazil, it was the same thing. Like, until they came to Pepperdine and interacted with Church of Christ and so many other Protestant churches, they just thought their whole lives like Catholicism is Christianity and that's it. And that's how it was for like 1500 years. There was the church, there was the one church, and it was the Christian church. And then there would be people splitting off. Like in the 6th century, there are these Oriental Orthodox churches who split. And they're still there today. The Armenian church, Coptic, Ethiopian, these churches. And then again, 1054 split, definitely 1054. I don't know where 1089 is coming from. 1089, why is that in my head? 1089. Oh my gosh, guys, 1089 is a tax form. It's one of the tax forms I do for YouTube. It's a 1089. That's why oh my gosh, that's so funny. That's why it's in my head. But what are we talking about right now? Oh, so we have Christianity. And the Catholic means universal church. So Catholic Christianity, it's like the universal church. But it's really, I mean, it makes me angry that Protestants hijacked the term Christian. And now it's this dichotomy where Catholics aren't Christians. It's ridiculous. It's awful. I hate it. It's so bad that people are like, I'm Catholic, not Christian. Like, you're not a Christian, you're Catholic. Like, there's literally no difference. And I super wish that we could just go back to calling everyone Protestants, because most people I know who are Protestant do not identify as it. So they're viewed as like, oh, I'm Christian. And then there are these Catholics over there. Whereas for me, before I converted, I made a huge distinction where I was like, Protestants, Catholics, Christians. That's how I viewed it. But most people who are Protestant don't even realize that they're Protestant Christians, you know? Done with my almond milk. You can go back to calling everyone Protestant. Oh, I do in my personal life, absolutely. Like, to my friends who I want to help them become Catholic, I'm like, Protestantism, your Protestant church, like, all the time. So, for sure, I think all of you guys should start doing that too. Like, when someone, like, I actually think that's a great idea, guys. You should just start using Protestant as much as possible. Because a lot of times I'm like, oh, what denomination are you? Maybe you should be like, what Protestant denomination are you? That would be brilliant, guys. Wow. That's such a good idea. Just inject it as much as possible. I think that's great. So that people realize that it's not, they're choosing to be against Catholicism. We are the first Christians, this is AD, who are Catholic. The split was when the Protestant movement happened and the Orthodox in 1054. The Protestants are taught to say we aren't Christians. There's a difference because Catholics believe Mary was assumed bodily and crowned Queen of Heaven. We're talking about the differences between Catholic and Orthodox. Here's the thing. When it comes to the assumption of Mary, there are different Catholic views on it. You don't have to believe that she was, like, her body disappeared. I do. But you can choose different views of the assumption. You can believe, like, you can believe that her soul was assumed in heaven, or you can believe that, like, her body physically, you know what I mean? So you're not forced to think that. I love your necklace, Miss Rize. Thank you. I got this from a company called Anna Louisa Jewelry. They sponsored my video. So, Lizzie, you inspire me to be a better Christian and better person. Michelle, great. Lizzie, you could go all the way and call them heretics. Which Protestant heretic denomination are you part of? That'd be so awful. Can you imagine? People would hate me. Like, you talk about go to church, like, oh, which Protestant heretic denomination did you grow up? Oh my gosh, I kind of want to start doing that. Just, like, be awful if people see how they react. What Protestant things to say, how to respond to Protestants. They just don't know the Catholic faith at all. Imagine I meet new people. What Protestant heretic denomination? Bug Lizzie. I don't trust you guys at all because in the last video someone said there was a spider behind me and there actually wasn't, and now that there was a bug, you guys are like super freaking me out. You guys are so awful because before it was so clear that there is not a spider, but now, oh my gosh, you guys are so, oh my gosh. It really is there. It's actually there. Guys, I don't believe you. On the camera lens. I don't know what to do, guys. It's Satan. I hope it's not a wasp. It's just like... Okay, it went far away. Thank you guys for telling me to blow on it. Get a cup. Ugh. This is so bad, guys. I have such trust issues with you guys after the spider incident. Were you guys here last live stream? I have, oh my gosh, it's flying. Okay, guys, let's go. Let's see how this goes, guys. Fuck. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I curse, guys. I curse under my breath. My last apartment, I lived with a lot of non-Christians, so I picked up their language, not intentionally, but you know what I mean? So I don't have a problem with cursing. Handheld vacuum for Lizzie on Christmas list. Not very vegan of you. Who is your patron saint? Irenaeus. And actually, so I said at the beginning of this video that I just finished editing a video response to a video by Father Mike Schmitz on trans issues because he does not understand at all. And my video is like a 35-minute response in which I explain gender dysphoria and trans issues and all of that. And sorry, I'm really traumatized by the book. But anyways, Irenaeus fought against a heresy called Gnosticism in the 2nd century, which was really big and kind of threatened to ruin Christianity. It was people who believed that Jesus was not fully God because they thought physical matter was evil. And so in his big work against heresies, which today is printed like 500 pages, he spends like over 100 pages just going in depth into what the Gnostics believed, like explaining it in the best detail, the most charitable way, like fully understanding the opposing position, and then he refuted it. So that's why I did not like the Father Mike Schmitz video, it's called Bruce Jenner and the Transgender Question. So I'm responding to the video, and my main issue with it is he made a 10-minute video against transitioning without even mentioning gender dysphoria or explaining the condition. Like, transitioning is the tip of the iceberg of everything horror that gender dysphoria is. And so Irenaeus, my patron saint, super, like, I'm modeling my YouTube after him because he fully understands in depth the opposite position. He, like, to refute all the way, you have to fully understand. And honestly, like, see the rationality and the reasoning and why people think like this as well. That's actually one of the reasons I really like the Unplanned movie. I feel like they went behind the scenes into Planned Parenthood and made you see the humanity in it, which I think is really important. Her patron saint is Saint Irenaeus of Leon. How do you learn who your patron saint is? You actually get to pick a patron saint. So if you're born Catholic, your parents name you after someone. Who is your patron saint? Actually, no. I think you can do either way. I think you can decide for your kid, or your kid can when they're confirmed. I think it depends. Lizzie's Answers. Who wrote the book After Virtue? Alistair McIntyre. I found out that my personality type is after the last live stream. It's ISFJT. That's really cool. Gnosticism is really big now. Yeah. I think that I used to be Gnostic in a lot of ways. I think there's different facets of how you can be Gnostic. So we get to pick ourselves. Okay, Lizzie, sorry if someone already mentioned this, but the picture you didn't remember in your room tour video was the Divine Mercy image. Yeah, I can't believe I didn't remember what it was. But what was I talking about? Oh, Gnosticism. So Gnosticism is anything where you think the body is evil. So the reason they thought God didn't become fully human is because they had this underlying Gnostic belief that matter is evil. So, and this idea that we need to get away from the physical, and the physical isn't as much reality. So the physical lacks as much reality. So I believed as my whole life as a Christian that until college, when I met Catholics, that the physical body is, you want to get away from the physical body into the spiritual, that with heaven you're getting away from the physical body, you're getting away from the world is bad, don't be of the world, taking these Bible verses out of context. But the Catholic view is that we're already beginning the kingdom of heaven on earth. The earth is good, God created it as good, and our bodies will be resurrected. We're not getting away from our physical bodies, they're just going to be glorified even more. And I think that it's so weird that I didn't recognize this my entire life, right? Because Jesus was resurrected bodily, like he was new body. He wasn't just like a spirit, God took on sinful flesh. Jesus was without sin. He did not have sinful flesh. How many people snack when listening to Lizzie? I chose St. George as mine for my confirmation. He's known for the tale of him fighting a dragon. In reality, he died a martyr as a Roman Catholic soldier under... Wait, what? I've seen one of my friends who's Orthodox. There's literally an icon of St. George fighting the dragon, like, at his parish. I remember asking him, like, I'm eating rice and kale, brown rice, kale, avocado, tomato, sauteed together in a pan with garlic, fresh garlic, and chili powder and some salt. Anyways, do you go to Zoe 101 University? Yes, they filmed on the Pepperdine campus, which is my college. So, anyways, so funny. So one of my guy best friends and me, and then our Orthodox friend, we were at this Orthodox parish. And afterwards, we're like, oh, there is some icon with the dragon. Like, what is that? He's like, yeah, St. George fought the dragon. And we're like, what do you mean he fought a dragon? And Michael's like, yeah, he fought a dragon. And we didn't understand if he believed or not that there are actually dragons. It was like, Kale, the gang's all here. Cool that. Kale is an abomination. Gnosticism is what my Pentecostal friends believe. How can I explain that it's wrong in a rational way? So I think that explaining that Jesus was physically resurrected, that's so scary that I was looking for the bug the whole time and it was right next to my head. It's terrifying. Okay. Something else that really was a game changer for me is in my Greek class, we learned about the etymology of this word. Jesus went around proclaiming the kingdom of God is coming. Sorry, I'm so tired, guys. I'm gonna go soon. Jesus went around proclaiming the kingdom of God is coming near. The kingdom of God has come. And you think he's talking about like, oh, heaven is coming up. But no, Jesus is saying the kingdom of heaven has come near. The kingdom of heaven is Jesus. is God. So the Holy Spirit is God. So the kingdom of heaven is in us. But the etymology that Jesus uses, has come near. It's not the kingdom of heaven is coming. It's in the future. He's saying right now, like, I am the kingdom of heaven. So that really helped me. Will art still exist in the kingdom to come? Absolutely. God is the greatest artist. He created every human so unique. Lizzie, you should watch The Flash on CW. It's on Netflix. I think you would like it. I'm sorry, I don't watch Netflix. Memory loss and depression. Will the Statue of Liberty still be standing in the kingdom? Oh my gosh, I think the US is going to stop being a country in the next like 500 years. Because think of Rome. Rome was such a big country and then it died. So I think the US is gonna not be real in the future. Gnosticism also believes that Sophia is the feminine aspect of God. Okay, you gotta understand. Sorry guys, I'm being immodest. You gotta understand that there are like dozens of forms of Gnosticism. So even in the 2nd century, there were so many different strains of it. And I think like Irenaeus in Against Heresies, it's hilarious. He's like, you guys don't even agree with each other. Like, you don't even have a consistent theology. If you can't even agree and understand your own theology, that's super problematic. Like, it's hilarious. But yeah, so that's kind of the underlying view that the physical is bad. But I mean, it's so cool. I mean, I thought it was cool. Obviously, it's not wrong, but it was like cool reading about because they have this whole like list of gods in creation. So there's like this thing which creates this thing and gave birth to this thing and fought with this thing. It's like a pagan, you know, like with poly. I'm so tired, guys. You know how in school you learn about all the Greek gods and stuff, and they're fighting and having babies and at war and committing adultery against each other, just really weird stuff happening. That's like how Gnosticism is. The Aeneia and the Demiurge. Okay, Harry, we'll talk about depression right now. I've been so sad about memory loss. How do you cope with memory loss due to mania or depression? I think that a lot of times I don't realize I've lost memories, which is really good. So most of the time I don't even think about it. But then there are times, I think I didn't even realize memory loss was a part of it for a while. And I think when I first started realizing that I'd forgotten huge things, it was really sad and scary. Like my friend who I'm staying with right now, she came and visited me at Pepperdine around the time of my graduation, my senior year. And like, it was one of the only times we'd like been with each other in person because we're kind of long distance friends. And when I was planning to visit her, like this was like 2017, she was like, oh yeah, like the last time I saw you. And I had zero memory of like this whole weekend I'd spent with one of my best friends. And when she started talking about it more, it kind of brought back kind of, but I had zero memory. And like there are other times where a friend will mention something and I don't know what it is, but because usually like most people aren't constantly thinking about things that are happening or their memories, you know what I mean? Like most people don't have this constant like details of their past. So I think most of the time you don't notice, but what is really scary is I know in my romantic relationship, I have a lot of memory loss, and it's really hard for my boyfriend just because he'll be referencing something and I don't know what it is. So I feel like with friendships, they'll be referencing something and you can kind of play it off like, oh yeah, like that memory. But when you're really, really close and like best friends and you know your souls are intertwined and the closest person in your life and you're just talking about times you've had and you don't remember, it really hurts them. And so I think for me it's kind of like, oh, you don't even remember what you don't remember, you know what I mean? Like if you have memory loss, it's not like, oh, like I forget, you don't know that you forget. Do you try to keep a journal? I did for a long time and then it just got exhausting. But yeah, so I think it's harder for people in my life than for me, but I've kind of like concluded that I can't spend my whole life trying to remember my life. I used to journal like every single day of what happened, And I know that before I was even diagnosed with bipolar, I had this huge desire to journal constantly. And it got to the point where I was spending like 30 minutes every night writing memories of what happened. And I just don't even care anymore because I just know I'm not going to remember most things. And I can make YouTube videos and take pictures. And I know with people I really care about, I'll like write down in the notes section of my phone memories of what happened. And I know like at the beginning of my relationship with my boyfriend, like every time we visited, I wrote down everything that happened to not forget. And it's beautiful that I have all that written down, but eventually it gets to the point where it's like, I don't care anymore. I don't know if that makes sense. It's just like exhausting to have to remember everything. And so I'm very much just like living in the moment. Thank you for answering. Yeah, of course. I'm very much just living in the moment, and I've kind of made peace with this and just understood like I'm gonna forget a lot. But it's really important to just live in the moment and to fully invest in people and take as many pictures as possible. That's really important. Like take pictures all the time because that really brings everything back. And also listening to music, like constantly listening to new songs, listening to those songs again. So like I'll download new music and like listen to it on repeat for like a few weeks. And then like years later, if you hear the song, you'll be remembered of that. So that really helps as well. But I think like it makes you feel really crazy though. Because like I don't even remember what day it is or what month a lot of times, which is a huge sign that like you're mentally ill. Might be a silly question, but can you be a Catholic if you don't believe in hell? No. I mean, you are a Catholic by your baptism, but that's not Catholic to believe. At least not eternal hell. I'm really coming close back to Catholicism, but that's my only stumbling block. So I think what will really help you, because that was one of my things. Yeah, that was actually a thing too. I forgot because memory loss. But in 2017, I even made a video talking about how hell probably doesn't exist and like the Greek definition of hell, all these things, you know? Do you ever forget YouTube videos? Yeah. So I'll get back to the hell thing in a minute, but yeah. Like I'll be watching back old videos, and I actually really love that I have my YouTube channel because it reminds me of everything, because I make videos all the time, so I can like watch back and I'll be like, oh my gosh, that video. But yeah, I completely forget about videos. Like I remember in March I went a couple weeks without uploading just because I was traveling in Ireland and stuff, and when I got back, I was like, oh my gosh, I've like only uploaded 5 videos in the whole year. Why haven't I uploaded? And I was like so stressing out and hard on myself. And then I looked back and I was like, I've uploaded twice a week for 3 months, but I forgot that I made videos. So yeah. But I'd say that it's like really bad day to day where like I completely forget to do things and tasks. So I actually want to get back to like getting a planner, and I keep putting it off. So yeah, it's really bad for work because I forget everything day to day as well. What was the question? Oh, hell. So a lot of people think of hell like, you know, Calvinism, Southern Baptist, that it's like torture. God is just torturing people, they're burning in fire. But there's this, oh my gosh, I actually wrote a poem. Okay, go to my YouTube channel homepage, like click on my LizziesAnswers thing right here, go to my homepage, and it shows like recent videos, and there's one called Hell Poem. What is hell? Go watch that video right now. Well, after this, stay. I talk about how the Catholic view of hell, it's that people are frozen instead of tortured, and they want to be there, and they're like in their isolation. I also really recommend episode 10 of Bishop Barron's Catholicism series on the Word on Fire app. World Without End. So just Google episode 10, Bishop Barron, Catholicism series, World Without End, Word on Fire, iPhone app. That really helps. I'm so tired, guys. But go watch my poem because I explain in it the Catholic view of hell. So you don't have to stop believing in hell. I mean, you don't have to, like, the hell that you don't want to believe in is not the hell that Catholicism teaches. Does that make sense? Lizzie, God loves burn inside us. Thank you for reminding me I love you. You're the best. Will the Western Wall be standing? Welcome, sis. What YouTubers do you like listening to, Lizzie? So I definitely go through phases. I really love a lot of YouTube musicians who I've been following for years. So I really love Megan and Liz, Cimarelli. I watch vegan YouTubers, like a natural vegan. I try